Welcome to ProfitLed Office Hours, where we invite a fellow Bootstrap founder on the show to use me as a sounding board and to discuss anything they want around building companies. I'm your host, Melissa Kwan, co-founder and CEO of eWebinar. Today, I have Troy Munson with me. Troy is a 2-time bootstrapper and large enterprise sales rep, like I was before when I quit my last job at SAP, which was 13 years ago now. Troy, how's it going?
It's going great, Melissa. Thanks so much for having me. I was thinking right before I jump on this call that you and I have connected for 6 months now. We've never actually had like a real conversation. So thanks for having me. I'm excited about this.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I was also actually thinking about the same thing. So thanks for coming on the show. Why don't you start by telling us a bit about yourself, your previous ventures, which I actually didn't know you had until today, and what you're up to nowadays?
Yeah. How much time do we have?
Half an hour.
All right, cool. I'll keep it brief. So a little bit about me, as you mentioned in the intro, I'm a large enterprise sales rep right now. Recently moved to the North Carolina area, so I cover everything here. But I've been in sales for about 5 years now. And throughout those 5 years, I've always had side hustles or side businesses, whatever you want to call it nowadays. And the first one was a services business. It was like a prospecting service business. And I got to 12 customers and completely shut it off. You can't have a full-time job and do training at the same time. It was insane. The second one, which was actually acquired, it was called Vocal. And really I wanted to get into real estate flipping, saw that courses were like $3,000. And I was like, how do I know if this would actually help me? And I was like, I wish I could just pay this guy $50 or $100 for 5 minutes of his time. So I created a platform that allowed you to connect with business influencers, and then you just pay for the amount of time that you chat with them. Think of it as I always call it like a business professional OnlyFans. A lot of mistakes happened there. Pretty much the UI and the UX was terrible. And so it was awful. But I did end up getting it acquired from a company that had all these subscribers, all that good stuff. And then I also founded a SaaS platform that is now I'm just advising. It's called Referral, and it's still up and running and healthy.
But how did you get this? So you started this marketplace like as a side hustle while you were doing full time. So at which point did you get it acquired? Like, was it like a revenue decision? Was it a lifestyle decision? Like, talk us through that.
Yeah, it was a revenue decision. I'm not sure how things are over there, but my wife was pretty much like, you have this much money to try to make something work and go try to make it work. So I spent X amount of money on it. And so I hired somebody from Upwork, and I don't know anything about development, technology. I know a little bit about technology, but nothing about the engineering side of things. And so I pretty much hired the first person that I talked to that said that they can do it. And I went really cheap, and that was the biggest mistake I think I've done ever since anything that I've bootstrapped. And it was built. It took about 4 months to build, which was probably one red flag. I was really quick to build a marketplace, and I got about 12 influencers on board. They had about 25 million followers total, and I was like, if they post about it, I'm going viral, and this is it. I'm good. Yeah. Anyways, they posted about it, and we launched, and no one could book time. It was supposed to send out a Zoom link. The Zoom links didn't work. Everything crashed. Yeah. It was a terrible experience. We were hosted on the worst, whatever you want to call, pretty much the website didn't work. And I knew at that time, I was like, you know what? I don't want to try to go back and fix this, because I told the engineering team that I'd contracted, and pretty much all that to say is they were like, hey, it's 3 times the amount for us to rebuild it. And I said, I can't do that. And it didn't work. And so then I went and I Googled people that just buy businesses, and I found somebody. His name was David, and he owned 3 online magazine subscription services. And he was like, yeah, we have millions of subscribers. As long as I can use this platform to get them to generate more revenue, we'll buy it. And so that's what I did.
That's pretty cool. And what's Referral, the thing that you're advising now?
Referral, in a short kind of synopsis, is a platform that just helps B2B companies automate the referral process. Everything from doing the outreach for you, tracking it, paying out the rewards, making sure that you can see how much revenue you've driven from it and all that stuff. It does all that in one place, so you don't have to go out and manually try to piece together a referral program.
Yeah. So how do you want to make the most out of our next half hour together today?
Yeah. So I think the best way to go about this is one, you've been extremely helpful for me with all of these side businesses that I've had. You've shared so many great documents with me and stuff like that. So I think I'd kind of want to take the show and put it more on you and kind of learn what's going on in your world and how things are going today with eWebinar. How does that sound?
Yeah, sounds good.
Cool. So the first thing I want to talk about, so obviously you're the founder of eWebinar. Where is it at today in regards to size? Share whatever you can. You don't need to give revenue numbers, but I am curious, how big are you today?
Yeah. So the way we measure is obviously revenue, right?
Yeah.
I think everyone takes this question differently. Like if you're a non-bootstrap founder, you'd be like, I raised 100 million and I have 50 people. I'm like, okay, that sounds absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
So anyone that's followed me on LinkedIn knows that we're, completely bootstrapped. We only hire contractors, no full-time employees. So, but even though we hire contractors, they're still full-time. We just kind of structure them differently and we hire people from all over the world. So right now, we have our CTO and 5 other developers. And then, so that's 6 people. And then we have 3 full-time, business people, me being one of them. And then we've got like part-time contractors on an as needed basis, right? So you can imagine like content writers for different types of content and designers for, different types of design. But revenue wise, we just went over, I think 75,000 MRR. So I don't know what that is. I mean, it's like the 1 million is in sight, but I still don't pay myself. That's kind of where we are. I think that's where a lot of the frustration comes from as well. There's always something else that you need to spend money on. But for some reason, it's still, we're 4 years in and it still feels every day that it's new and we're still trying to figure things out.
Yeah. I feel like we'll get into that later, but I do feel like it's constantly like you don't know what you're doing and you're still always trying to figure things out. But one thing that is interesting to me is that you have 5 full-time contractors. What I found running different side gigs is it's really hard to find contractors that you trust and that you really like working with. With referral, we actually hired a contractor and it's like, we can't tell if we like them or not. And so how did you find the contractors? How were you like, okay, yes, these are the people and they're a great fit. Can you shine a little bit more light on that?
Yeah. So I hate managing people. I am not good at it. I try to do as little of that as possible. Like in a business, I love creating and selling stuff. I was also a salesperson for a long time, but I'm just not good with people and emotions and, all that stuff. Right. So coming in to this company, I knew that's not what I wanted to do. So we also, because we were bootstrapped, we knew we needed to hire devs that are not in North America or, in the Western world. We just can't afford them. Right.
Yeah.
And so, we actually I want to say like December of 2019, right before the pandemic, we actually went to Vietnam. Cause I heard, a lot of people were hiring in Vietnam. The work culture is really good. And, there's a lot of young people there. And frankly, like we nomaded for a few years. I love Vietnam. So we actually just wanted more reasons to go back there. So before we went to Vietnam, we actually posted in a few groups to ask people if they worked with any dev shops there. And we spent a week meeting with multiple different dev shops and recruiters. And then we picked one that we felt we liked. But these were all through referrals. So it's really, really difficult, as you mentioned, to hire someone you just don't know at all. Yeah. And then back then we also worked with a dev shop in Belarus that was also someone my CTO had worked with in his previous startup. Yeah. I'm very, very wary of working with, like, we all get like 10, 20 different dev shops that market to us every week on LinkedIn. Yeah. And everyone has the best developers. And they can fit all of your needs. It's insane, right? Yeah. But then at the end, you can't hire a good developer, right? Yep. So, and just the training costs and the switching costs are too high, right? So we actually ended up working with a firm called HD WebSoft out of Ho Chi Minh. And I want to say like the beginning was always rough, right? You're trying people, you're switching people out. But the best thing about working with a dev shop, and most people don't like to do this because they want to have more control, But the best thing about working with a dev shop is if you have someone that you want to switch out, they will do it for you. So all that stuff about like not knowing how to recruit and not knowing how to build culture and retain people, all of that is on someone else. And that's actually by design because I just don't know how to do it. And actually at that time, I didn't have a CTO, which was a really big mistake. David, my life partner, ended up being my CTO and co-founder a year later. But at that point in time, he was just my life partner helping me kind of set this up. So my idea was I was going to work through a dev shop and they were going to be my CTO, PM, kind of dev co-founder and development team while I could go take care of the business side.
Yep.
So now we're structured such that David, he actually does all the kind of major coding and then he guides the team in Vietnam. And we actually just recruited somebody from Canada through a code school that I used to work through.
Okay.
So again, it's just someone that I've worked through in the past. I've actually found that the best way to hire junior developers, and I'm not saying like people can code on their own. We're getting to the point where we get a lot of like technical support tickets that I can't take care of. And the best people to take care of that are actually people who are junior coders, but can't really stand on their own, but will do anything to get into a tech company.
Yep.
And there are a lot of code schools where people are learning code for 4 to 6 months. It's their second or third career and they're more mature and they're usually customer facing and they'll do anything to get into a tech company. So I've actually had a lot of success working through code schools, hiring technical support that eventually work up to, a junior developer. And then I'll find another technical support and kind of go through like the same thing. But our business contractors are actually all like old business friends of mine that I've worked with in some capacity. So Todd, our COO, was actually a customer of mine in my previous startup. And he was actually one of the people that helped me get this off the ground, like from day zero.
Awesome. So essentially what you're saying is go to Vietnam or look up code schools. So on the code school part, because I'm genuinely curious about this, do you just Google like code schools and do they have like a list of people that go, or how do you figure that out?
Yeah, so this was kind of a hack. So I used to live in Vancouver in my previous startup. And Vancouver has like endless government funding for things like this. So I was just referred to a code school that actually happened, that was actually like headquartered in the co-working space that I was a part of. And every quarter they have new grads that they also try to place into jobs. Okay. So imagine like every quarter there's like, depending on how big the cohort is, like maybe 50 to 100 people. But right now it's getting bigger because everyone's remote. So they actually have programs, not just in Canada now, but also in the US. So the name of this code school is called Lighthouse Labs. And they actively do this for their grads. So we basically, just went through this process right after Christmas. We basically just got a bunch of resumes after doing kind of a work session. It's kind of like, we go on a Zoom and talk about our company. And then people that find this interesting would then submit their resume to me just through email. And then we kind of go through a process of like answer these 10 questions and then complete these, 2 technical questions. And then it goes to like a face-to-face interview with David. And then we pick, that way. But every single quarter, they've got new grads that they would put through, this program.
Wow. Well, that's nice. I did not have any of those resources when I built the other 2. I wish I did. I'd like to understand, because this was always tough for me, and I help about 3 or 4 people. They just started their startup, and the toughest part for people that, and you might not know the answer to this because you do come from a sales background, but really getting people to buy the product, right? So they have the product, they want to get their first customers. How did you get your first customers at eWebinar? Was it just through people that you knew in a past life? And then from there, how did you get random people that you don't know to start buying the product?
Yeah, so I feel like I'm cheating on this a little bit because I've had so many years of sales experience. You can kind of relate to this as well, right? Yeah. the thing is, I don't believe that anyone's a natural born salesperson. I believe sales is a science and people can learn how to do it. Like anybody can.
Yep.
And that's actually good news, right? I think a lot of founders are not sales driven and they're like, oh, this is not me. I'm going to go and find either, I'm going to hire a salesperson and pay them commission or whatnot. But every single startup has to start from founder-led sales. Not just because you know your product the best and you're most passionate, but because through that initial sales process, you hear all the problems that people are trying to solve or all the things that people don't agree with, right? Say you have a product and you're like, this is why I built this, but you're trying to pitch it to them and they're like, actually, I don't have that problem, right? So if you're not the first salesperson, you're not getting all of that feedback. And sometimes it's your product, but sometimes it's just your sales pitch. So if you can't get your own sales pitch down, you can't teach the next person. You can't write your website, all of your content. You can't write your LinkedIn posts, right? So I feel like I had a bit of a hack to this because I've been selling for 15 years before that. But I do have a framework that I follow. And it was actually derived from one of the books that I recommend the most, which is The Presentation Secrets of Steve Jobs. I don't know if you've read it. But it's really just it's really just the psychology of how you frame a presentation to get people to a close. It's not like a sleazy secondhand car salesman. It's like, how do I frame this presentation to better align what I'm saying with what people want to hear? Because I know you have that problem. It's just, how do I communicate this? So that's, I think step one was like coming up with that sales pitch that allows me to communicate the value. But what I did was just, I got a Google sheet out like 2 weeks before the product was ready to get to market. I hate the word launch because launch is like, feels like you can only launch one time.
Yeah.
But I made
launching.
Yeah, exactly. I'm always launching. So I made a Google sheet and I just went down on my phone and I wrote down every single person that I think might be able to use this product. So it was just like name, their company, email, a note about them. And then I probably came up with like 200 people. And then I also, and these were like past customers, friends, like other vendor friends that I went to conferences with, other tech companies. And then I made a list of potential industries and roles that this could be good for. And then I wrote kind of a 1 degree removed companies. So I spent 10 years in real estate. So I didn't just write down everybody I knew. I wrote down everyone I kind of knew, like in the same space. And then I looked up, their CEO or whoever I was selling to, and I put that in the same sheet. So it was like 1 degree removed, 2 degrees removed. And then when the product was ready to, ready for signups, ready for trial signups, I just went down one by one and I either texted them, called them, or I emailed them and said, hey, I'm coming out with my next thing. We'll love to tell you what it's about. And that was it. Like, I want to tell you what it's about. And actually, because I had a sale before that, people are kind of curious about like the next thing I was up to. But of course, I had a landing page already. We had a few pages to our website. We tried to make it, as professional as possible, but there was still like no testimonials, right? So it was just kind of like a bare bone like website. And if I was on the call with them and they said they were interested to learn more, I then would set up a second appointment and just do a demo walkthrough with them and whoever else they needed to bring on the call. So, I did all those tricks, like who else needs to see this? And then I would, set up a call. And if during that demo, somebody said, yes, I want to try this, I then would set up a third call specifically for the purpose of onboarding them. And this part is essential because we were building eWebinar for 2 years in a silo. No one had seen this before. So all the things that we thought were obvious were probably in the wrong place. So I specifically wanted to watch them sign up, and they knew this. And because we were kind of friends, I had a lot of leeway to get their time. So specifically, they knew the next call was I was going to watch them sign up. So have your credit card ready. And then I was going to watch them create their profile and then create their first webinar, which was like the first, the first time to value, their activation, action, right? So through that process, and I blocked off an hour, and through that process, we were able to see where all the flaws were. Like it was something as simple as like changing a button from white to pink because they just couldn't see it. They couldn't see where the
Yeah.
schedule was. They couldn't see where the publish was. And I probably personally onboarded my first, like, I want to say like 50 to 75 customers before I felt like this process was down. And then we were able to automate it. So from that point on, I did not do a single live demo or a single onboarding live because we had gone through that process. And that was probably like a 6-month process.
Wow. Okay. So did you get the first people, you said friends and stuff, did they pay? Did you let them get it for free and get feedback? How did you go about that?
Yeah, that's also like something I really believe in is you need, like, if you're providing value, like if you're truly believing that you're providing value, like business value, you need to charge for it from day one.
Yep.
Right. Like the thing is, like, if you give someone something, like, and this is why I don't believe in betas, right? If you give someone something, there's no motivation for them to go and actually use the product. There's nothing to lose. If I'm paying you, I'm committed. There's something to lose, right? And also, like, if you ask your friends, even your business friends, is this a good idea? It doesn't hurt them to say it's a good idea, right?
Yep.
But the moment you ask someone to pay you even $10, they're going to tell you all the different reasons why they can't pay for it.
Yeah.
And then now you're getting a good business user that's investing in your platform, and they actually lose every single month from not using the product. Right? And because we're bootstrapped, we needed revenue from day one. And because I've had experience in my past of not being able to get people out of beta into a paid customer, I knew kind of this time around, I'd rather spend an extra 6 months building the product to the point where I felt like someone would pay for it. And anyone who didn't feel like they were ready to pay for it, that was just, for me, not a good customer. So what we did was, in the first 2 months, we told them, if you sign up within these 2 months, we will give you a 60-day free trial instead of 30. But actually, we didn't build in Stripe. Like, we had to give something up and we didn't have a way to charge them. So we actually gave ourselves 2 months in order to build in like all the subscriptions and stuff. But everybody that signed up knew that they were going to get charged on September 1st. And then actually on September 1st, we converted 80% of our trials because people were expecting to pay. And actually 2 weeks before that, I even told them, hey, just know that you're getting charged because we didn't have all the emails and all that built in. So if this is not, if this is not creating value for you, you can cancel here. So most people actually stayed on board, and a lot of those people are actually still customers of ours.
Wow, that's really cool. I actually have a personal example there about getting somebody to pay. So when we launched Referral back in the day, we had 8 design partners, and to this day, none of them have even launched a campaign in the platform because it was free for them, but the paying customers are the ones that are live and getting the value from it. So I completely agree with that. And I think you hear a lot of bootstrap founders and even founders in general say like, hey, go validate your idea and then go get like 25 people that say that they'll try it out and stuff like that. And I'm on the same side as you, is like, no, if you're delivering value, get them to pay or else they won't take it serious.
Well, I mean, I think you can put yourself in those shoes too, right? Like if I'm given something for free, there's no motivation for me to start using it. And actually the better example of this is we started with a 30-day trial. And then we started realizing that people weren't creating their webinars. Like, and there were so many people that were like, oh, I forgot about this and you charged me. Can I get a refund? There were so many of those. And because we were bootstrapped, we don't have time to wait for people to activate themselves. So we actually made a decision about 6 months in to shorten our trial to 14 days. And that actually doubled our conversion.
Wow.
Because then people actually felt like there was a limited time to get this going. And you always hear like freemium versus free trial. And if somebody doesn't go to if someone doesn't convert from a trial, should you convert them to freemium? Like maybe, right? But I think every business model is different. Like, especially if you have a consumer product, maybe you don't have a choice. If you have a lot of money to pump into ads and you have so many people coming through your funnel that sign up is not an issue, maybe freemium works. Or maybe you have a product that don't need a lot of support. That's not our product. Because when you come in, people hook up their CRM, they hook up their MailChimp, their Salesforce, and then they need a lot of help, right?
Yeah,
so, and then our team wants to feel like we're fairly compensated, right, for our time. Yeah. So that was a lot of, different decision-making points as well. But mainly like we needed to race against time to get revenue like in the door.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like how you shortened it to 14 days. It's really interesting that now something in their minds, like, I need to get something off the ground in 14 days or else I won't be able to see if this gives me value for free in the first 14 days. I like that change. And I mean, if you're selling and you have a product that's for B2B, chances are the people are way too busy to try out a free product. Like there needs to be some sort of motive, like you said, for them to actually get something up and running. Yeah.
I mean, I want to address your other half of the question, which I forgot, is how did you, like you had asked, like, how did you go from friends to people?
Yes. How did you get random people, strangers just off the street to come by eWebinar?
Yeah, that was the second part of the question I didn't answer. So that was like a rude awakening. So I didn't realize it was going to be so hard because my entire sales career was like you. Like I was in large enterprise sales, one-on-one outreach, and people respond. Right. Because, and the thing is, previous to this, I was selling, like my last startup, like our contract size was 10,000 to 100,000 a year, and people bought through cold outreach. So I came into this thinking cold outreach is the way that I'm going to not just get this off the ground, but get people to buy. What I didn't realize after I had exhausted my immediate network and referrals, because I always ask for referrals, was people don't buy $100 products through one-on-one outreach. Like they just don't. Like you don't see a MailChimp having an outreach team.
It's true.
Right? At least not for like your individual signups. They might have it for their partners in their enterprise, but not for the individual like product-led growth signup. So that was a bit like, okay, what am I going to do now? Right. So we actually hired somebody for a year, like to do one-on-one, like email mass outreach, different segments, different roles. Like, so I would feel like I really gave it a good chance. Yeah. Right. Like, and, we also try like automated LinkedIn outreach for this. Like people got super angry because, now you're trying to sell them through LinkedIn. And I just started to like ask my mentors and friends what they do. And then I learned about this new thing called like community and social selling.
Yep.
And that wasn't until like, I want to say 1 year into this journey. And, our product's been live like a little over 2 years. So we haven't been doing it that long, but that's why I started looking at how other companies sell and how other executives and other, co-founders are putting themselves out there. And then I realized for the first time, I'm seeing people care about the people behind the product almost just as much as the product itself.
Yeah.
And so then that's when I took Justin Welsh's course on like how to write content on LinkedIn and the theories and psychology behind it. That's why I started, posting on there daily. And I haven't even done it for a year. Like I think it's been like 9 months, but that's also when we started investing in content and SEO, but not just, SEO optimized content, but content on our own site. So case studies, customer testimonials, creating templates, within our webinar software that people can share, looking at different places in the product where we can promote our own product. So all of that we've been focused on for the last year. Cause I mean, there's also kind of a natural, organic growth where like, if you like the product, you might tell your friend, but that really only goes so far. So we're still, and that's why I said in the beginning, I still feel like we're new to this because a lot of this stuff I've never done before. And then I also started podcasting last year. So last year, not only did I start my own podcast, I was actively marketing myself on other people's podcasts to create evergreen content. So just last year in 2022, I was on over 60 podcasts, and they're still like slowly trickling out, this year. And attribution is super hard. Right. But
always.
This is like stuff that you just keep doing because you think, maybe this works. I'm not sure, but I'm just going to bank on it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's really interesting. Two things there. One, when it comes to LinkedIn and posting every day and building a community and engaging and commenting, I think I started around the same time as you, around 6 to 9 months ago, only because I was like, next thing I build, I want to make sure I have people that have my back, right? That I've built connections with and stuff like that. I know you started about a year after eWebinar, but obviously that's probably where a lot of growth is coming now, is like, hey, this is Melissa's company. It's not just eWebinar.
I think it's super smart, right? Because people ask me like, what is one thing you would have done differently?
Yeah.
Like knowing what you know now with eWebinar. The thing that I regret the most was between like selling my previous company and starting my new one was like a 2-month gap. Because I didn't sell for like retirement level money. So I wanted to do something else right away because I don't want to work forever. And I also see like how quick the world is changing and how much harder it is to actually get someone to pay you for something. But I waited for 2 years, like, because we built the product for 2 years before it was out to market. I didn't do anything. Like, I helped with some of the messaging, the design, and like I came up with the research and, you know, the feature specking and all that stuff, but I didn't do anything. And all of that time, I could have been out there talking about my exit, getting on podcasts, talking about my exit, creating a brand and audience. Like maybe, you know, why do we do all this, right? It's trust and credibility. Right. So when you come up with something, it's not just like, who's Troy? It's like, oh, Troy came up with something, right? It's his side hustle. And now he's just quit and he's do this other thing. Right. So that is my biggest regret, is I just sat there, but I didn't know, because my entire life was one-on-one sales. I went to conferences and set up booths and made friends with my vendor buddies. And then we kind of like, you know, partnered up to get into a big account. Right. But I just didn't like, this is just like a whole new world of stuff. But if anyone's listening and thinking like, oh, there's nothing I can do right now, there's always something you can do right now.
There always is. I have a coach, because he coaches me on just life stuff, but also as well as startup stuff and things like that. And I remember one time I asked him like, hey, when should I start promoting this? And he just said, you're too late. And that kind of goes back to what you said. During those 2 years of building it, you didn't really do anything about eWebinar. You waited for it to be done. And I'm always like, now I'm always in the thought, like, if you have an idea and if you want to build something, start talking about it now. Like, generate that buzz, get that name behind it. Make sure, like you said, it's Troy that's building it. It's Melissa that's building it. It's not like this product's just being slammed into your face. I think that's huge. If you have an idea, start marketing it now. Like, maybe not give the entire blueprint of how you're building it, but start marketing it now.
So I have a question for you, right? Like, everyone's talking about side hustles. Right. Like every creator is like, you know, you don't need to do this 9 to 5, start something small. It doesn't have to be big. What's your thought process? You've had a few side hustles now, right? Like, is there an end goal you're trying to get to? Like tell me about
there is.
That.
Yeah, there is. So they make it seem easier than what it really is, right? It's like they just assume that
it's so hard.
I know. They make it sound like people have $100,000 or more in the bank that they can just quit their job and go off and start posting on LinkedIn or build this business, and then they're going to be rich, right? And that's not the case, and that's why I still work. And it's not that I desperately need money or anything, but I've got an 8-month-old kid, I've got a wife. And so honestly, one thing for me, it comes down to insurance. But the second part is like, I'm in sales and I do pretty well. And I don't think that I have been, I think really this might just, I think I'm making excuses here. I don't think I've bet on myself enough to be transparent. So that could be one thing. But the other thing is like, I think it comes down to time management. People just act like they don't have enough time in the day to do something on the side. But if you think about it, like 4 hours is really nothing. That's less than 17% of your day. Like, you can probably get something going. But if you don't have the capital, create a side hustle, but only spend 1-2 hours a day on it. And that's it. I would say don't interrupt any sort of like important relationships that you have, whether that's a wife, a kid, dogs, whatever that is. I feel like a lot of people kind of put those to the side and forget about them. But I'm really keen on the fact that you can absolutely run something on the side while having a full-time job, see if it has legs, see if it's making revenue. And I think once you maybe get to where, like if you're in sales, if you get to where you're generating enough revenue to where it matches your base, maybe go all in on yourself. Because that's probably a good sign that you are finding product market fit, whatever that also means. But very big on the fact that you can absolutely do it on the side. And if you're not financially ready, just do it on the side and keep it on the side. I've kept things on the side for 5 years now. So, and it's all worked out really well.
Are you thinking about a next thing right now, or just focus on your kid?
I'm always thinking about a next thing. Yeah. Listen, my mind doesn't stop. My wife knows it. So my dream is to create startups. I want to create 2 or 3 startups, scale them to around 1 to 2 million in ARR, sell them, and then take about a 2-month break, start the next thing. That's what I want to do. I want to scale something to 7 figures in ARR by myself, sell it, and then do it maybe one more time, sell it, and then either go out and consult or something like that.
Yeah. Well, our time is up today. I do have one last question for you.
Yeah.
What are some words of wisdom that you want to leave with our listeners today who are Bootstrap founders focusing on driving growth and profitability?
One thing is be a familiar face. You kind of touched on this with the LinkedIn part. People are now buying from people rather than buying from companies, especially in the startup world. Once you get into a lot bigger companies, it's a little bit different. Like people know Amazon, so they're going to buy Amazon stuff. But in the startup space, be a familiar face. And then the other thing is like, you will never figure it out ever. You will never figure out the winning code, the Da Vinci code, anything like that when it comes to your startup. It is constantly just like, this is messed up. How do I fix it? And it's just rinse and repeat all day.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. So how can people connect with you so they can follow and support your journey?
Yeah, just Troy Munson on LinkedIn. That's where I'm most active. I think I post like once or twice a day about prospecting and starting a business and things like that. But that's it.
Awesome. Well, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe to ProfitLed and be notified of new episodes. Head over to our website, ProfitLed.fm, to see the show notes of this episode as well. If you're a Bootstrap founder who's grappling with building your business and would like to be a guest of mine during office hours, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. My name is spelled Melissa Kwan, Kwan. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks for listening to ProfitLed. If you enjoyed this episode, we hope you will subscribe to the ProfitLed podcast and head over to our website, ProfitLed.fm, to see the show notes of every episode. You can also join our mailing list to be notified of new episodes or when we have interesting products and resources to share. We promise to only share things you'll actually care about. Thanks again for listening. Bye now.